Arsenal 3, Nottingham Forest 0, Swansea 3, Nottingham Forest 2, Burnley 1, Nottingham Forest 1, Real Betis 2, Nottingham Forest 2, Nottingham Forest 0, Sunderland 1, Nottingham Forest 2, Midtjylland 3, Newcastle 2, Nottingham Forest 0, and Nottingham Forest 0, Chelsea 3. These are all the results that Ange Postecoglou managed under Nottingham Forest, and 39 days later, he's been given the sack. Lord, there's going to be so many videos on YouTube about this. Hi and welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy your stay. Hope you enjoy some of the other videos I have. But I really wanted to talk about the recent news. Hopefully it's a short video about Ange Postecoglou being sacked by Nottingham Forest. Because now, after 39 days, he's joined the basement of managers who have managed a Premier League team with a 0% win rate alongside the likes of Terry Connor and Frank de Boer. And also just a little dive into what I think this spells out for football in 2025, let alone the whole history of it, because I feel it leaves a lot more to be desired than what anybody has really talked about on YouTube of late. So right before we start, I hope you like and subscribe to my channel. Hope you enjoy a bit of knowledge here, there and everywhere, and a bit of opinions and reactions and the like. But also to comment your own opinion on the Ange Postecoglou reign during Nottingham Forest, and if you feel his sacking was either too soon or completely justifiable. So make sure you do that just before we delve right in. So in 39 days, Ange Postecoglou has managed Nottingham Forest. As I'm talking right now, it's just midday the next day. I haven't really delved into what other people are saying on YouTube. I haven't even talked about anything about Mark Goldbridge or TalkSport. Coming from someone who has no affiliation with Nottingham Forest, so a lot of you might just take this with a pinch of salt. I don't think it's justifiable. Don't get me wrong. I feel this is completely down to Marinakis, where evidently this shows that his ego was bigger than his brain, and at the end of the day, this comes at the expense of not only him, but of Nottingham Forest players, any managers who come in, and also the fans who go watch them every single week, whether it's home or away, or even away from the country. From an outsider, Marinakis has done so well with Nottingham Forest, from championship mediocrity to now competing in Europe. You felt like in a very fast-paced speed, they were going in such a high trajectory, from nearly being relegated in the championship, to hiring Steve Cooper, to getting promoted, to changing to Nuno, where a lot of people, not just Forest fans, but a lot of people were criticising the appointment, and it turned out to be such a magnificent appointment. And now it seems like they've just gone back to that year or two ago, where Marinakis just sacked somebody who was doing a decent job, in this case a great job, a fantastic job, and this time the signing didn't work. It was so left-wing to begin with, Ange Postecoglou taking the Forest job, because it was two completely different styles of play, and it was going to take such a long time to implement Ange Ball. I'm not saying it's a completely good, if not great or decent style of football. I mean, I've made a whole video about his stubbornness, but compare him to Amorim and you think he's a maverick of changing things. He has changed certain things in his philosophy, and ultimately it didn't work. Would it have worked if they weren't in Europe? Possibly. I mean, you would have a lot more time with your team teaching them about your style of play and philosophy for much longer periods of time, compared to going to Real Betis and Midtjylland in a weekday, you know? But irrespective of that, he signed up for this. You know, I'm not here to give Postecoglou a pat on the back saying, you know, it's not your fault. He signed up for this, he lost, and now he's, again, in the basement of Terry Connor and Frank de Boer, of managers who have a 0% win rate with a club. Do I think it was too soon to sack Postecoglou though? I do. 39 days, that's not on. I mean, it's easy to say that he's lost 6 games, drawn 2, enough is enough. It's so easy to say that, especially when you've never had any form of affiliation with Premier League football. But at the same time, you can say that with me. where I have no affiliation with Premier League football, being a footballer or the like, and it's so easy for me to say that it's too soon. But then again, I feel with the morality of sacking managers when they've hardly just entered the door, it doesn't really bode well with having a more sport. I mean, this isn't a recent phenomenon of sacking managers so soon into their reign. Look at Brian Clough of Leeds. It's not something that's just come out of the woodwork all of a sudden and we're talking about, God, this is the first ever time that this has happened. This has happened in the past, and I don't think it looks very well on football. There are some people who have so much money in their assets and they think they can just own a football club just like that, as if a football club has no soul, has no meaning to the very people who give their money to watch 11 players kick a ball on the pitch. But I think that's really becoming alarming for the state of football in all walks of the English pyramid, where people who get involved with football clubs aren't football people. They have no idea how to run a football club, and then when the going gets tough, then they throw their toys out of the pram and they think just by splashing money and throwing it on the wall will fix things. It doesn't. To a great extent, actually. To a great extent. There's so few examples of this. I mean, look at Roman Abramovich, where he sacked managers here, there and everywhere, lost nearly £1 million a week by doing his business. But then again, you look at the other side of things. Look at Watford, who sacked 22 managers since that family, I can't even remember their name, were in charge of Watford. Yes, to an extent, by sacking managers here, there and everywhere, got them 2 promotions to the Premier League. But look at them now. Football League highlights, I still watch it. I watch Watford. I have no idea about their philosophy or their players, and it feels like they're just there. That's what I fear a bit about with Nottingham Forest, where, don't get me wrong, 2 managers being sacked in a season isn't raising as much alarm bells as sacking 22 managers since 2018. But sometimes some things look like they're going in that direction, which you hope not. You don't want managers to be sacked, because at the end of the day, they're human people. Money shouldn't judge a person's morality on a situation, especially when it comes to football, because at the end of the day, these footballers and these managers are people too. They feel happy emotions, they feel sad emotions, they feel depression, and you'd think £150,000 a week would cure that depression. No, that doesn't work. Ultimately, I just think it's incredibly too soon to sack any manager in 39 days. I mean, the Leroy Rezenya sacking with Torquay many moons ago, 10 minutes into his appointment, you'd think that would be the pinnacle of owners not having a clue how to deal with people, let alone football managers. But it's quite alarming for Nottingham Forest. I mean, they're just one place above the relegation zone. Yes, they've played Chelsea, they've played Arsenal, they've played a couple teams in Europe who have European pedigree, and you would feel any English team in any European competition should ultimately win that competition. I mean, I'm still surprised Aston Villa didn't win the Europa League that time, but you would put your money on it tenfold. But ultimately it's backfired on not necessarily Nottingham Forest, but Marinakis. And I feel there's a lot of people on this channel who really do like to just spurt out things about football clubs or football players, and only do so because it's joining the bandwagon for views and subscribers and the like, and watch time hours, instead of really trying to see the grand scheme of things, that these are people. It's a great shame that Ange Postecoglou, as much as I'm not a fan of him, I'm not a fan of his sport, of his tactics, of his necessarily his philosophy, because in the Premier League you do need to adapt. You do need to adapt more so when things aren't looking your way. And not only has it cost him with Tottenham, but how can you judge that with Nottingham Forest? Because there were some players in that team who could play Ange ball. Nico Williams, Murillo, I'd argue Chris Wood could have, because he reminds me a lot of Harry Kane, and Harry Kane, actually, he wasn't part of Ange Postecoglou, was he? He went to Bayern Munich. I digress. But yeah, long story short, I don't want Nottingham Forest to be relegated, because in no way is this the fans' fault or the manager's fault or the player's fault. This is Marinakis' fault. And I want to separate the owners from the football club in this context. Don't get me wrong. Sheffield Wednesday with Chanziri, Man United with the Glazers. It's been a long time coming where they've started to degress. But with Marinakis, he cares. I would argue he cares so much about Nottingham Forest. That's why he's made all these decisions. He has been his own Achilles heel. And he has to suffer the consequences of that. But I don't think relegation is at the expense of the loyal fans who go to watch Nottingham Forest every single week. But I'm also not going to believe in the tripe that has been going on for such a long time for these last few weeks of people coming out of the woodwork on talk shows and radio shows and YouTube channels, just immediately thinking, I'm going to say Ange Postecoglou needs to get sacked because it doesn't work. So, because this is what is the trend at the moment, just bashing on Ange Postecoglou. It reminds me a bit of Pokemon, where the new Pokemon ZA game has come out. And immediately you have people coming out saying how it's just so underwhelming and it's terrible. And they forget that these games are built for children and they're just for fun, you know? People like to join on the bandwagons and I don't really like that, don't get me wrong. If there's times when I make a video and it looks like I'm on a bandwagon, then I would like to think there's a lot more substance to what I would like to talk about, because ultimately it is my own opinion and these people who are joining the bandwagons, it could be their opinion too. You know, there could be a lot of substance to what a lot of these people are talking about. But, you know, you could say some things are probably more over-exaggerated with, in this case, telling a human being to lose their job because 8 games in and 39 days later, they're not doing very well with managing a football club. You know, I feel there should be a lot more consequence to hiring a manager, not necessarily like a probation sort of thing, but in a kind of, a manager must stay with a football club for so long under certain circumstances where they're not actually intentionally ruining a football club. You know what I mean? It really isn't a good look on football. So I hope you enjoyed this little reaction video. It's really something I wanted to think about first before talking about it for you all. It's really something I feel a lot of people will have different opinions on, stand on different sides of the fence. Ultimately, we all could be right on which way we stand, but I think it's just very important to talk eloquently about human beings who are in the world of football, who earn a substantial amount of money, and not have that swayed you into having an opinion on a moral choice in the world of sport. So do let me know what you think. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.